Welcome to the Programmatic Digest, a podcast dedicated to reviewing industry trends and latest news in the programmatic and AdTech world. I'm Ellen Parker, your host and Chief Programmatic Sensei of Ellen Parker Consulting, where we offer one-on-one coaching or a 6-month training and development program in programmatic media to fit you and your team's needs. So thank you for joining us. Remember to subscribe right below and enjoy the show. All right, welcome everybody to Programmatic Digest podcast. I am your host, Ellen Parker, and I have some amazing guests today on the pod. If you're not watching this on YouTube, you should, because we have Kelly and Maya, some friends of mine from the Women in Programmatic Network. Ladies, how are you doing today?
Brilliant. Good morning. How are you?
I'm great. It's just great. It's spring here and everywhere else in the world. Should be, right?
That's our friends in Australia who may be experiencing autumn or the fall, as you guys call it. But yeah, us in the Northern Hemisphere are all experiencing the glorious spring.
Yeah. Hi, Helene and Kelly. It's absolutely wonderful to catch up with you guys. And I'm so excited to be on this podcast. And I'm from India, so, quite far away from you guys in terms of distance as well as time zones. So, and we have come here. So, yeah.
Oh, wow. That is really cool. And so today in this episode, we're going to talk about diversity and inclusion and equity, women in leadership, mentoring, you name it. But before we get into today's conversation, Maya and Kelly, I'd love for you guys to introduce yourself. Maya, how about you lead the way and introduce yourself, tell us who you are, what you do, and maybe a little bit about your journey. And then Kelly, we'll get into yours.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Maya Venkatesh, currently working in the programmatic space with Affinity Answers. I head the APAC region, for the business, and I'm also responsible for business development in this region as well. In terms of my journey, yeah, I'm a cost accountant by education, but worked in diverse fields, primarily operations, seeding and growing new organizations. I have worked with large MNCs like Ford Motor Company, Accenture, where I've managed large business units. And after about 25 years of working, I decided I needed to take a break and, just doing some consulting work. And that's when, I came across, our CEO and COO from Affinity Answers while I was on a trip to US. So it was just a casual meeting and a conversation. And, they wanted me to join them. And I was like, okay, I had never ever worked in marketing and advertising, nor did I know anything about data. And actually have a team who are completely data engineers. We are a data science company primarily. So we model our audiences on, social insights. It's been close to 4 years now with them. And I think, I'm still learning the programmatic space, but it's been a good journey.
That's amazing. 4 years is like at least 10 years in digital world.
Yeah, you learn to pick up things fast. And especially if you are selling, then you better pick up things fast, right? Because if you need to, do business, you need to be, on the top of your game.
Oh, man, it's fast because we're in RTV. That's why we're like moving 100 milliseconds at the time. That was a bad mom joke, everyone listening. And I'm really excited I said it out loud. So Kelly, give us the honor of a quick intro before we get into this very exciting conversation.
Hi, I'm Kelly Jacobson Collins. I work at Bliss as their privacy compliance director. I'm also our DPO. Funny that you're saying, Maya, about accounting, because I went to university because I wanted to become an accountant or work in the city. And when I was studying in America, another coincidence, I did an advertising class. And after that, I decided I wanted to work in advertising, which led to me joining an advertising agency. I've worked in advertising media tech for 25 years. And I moved to specialize into data protection and privacy about 3.5 years ago, and 4 years now, 2018. And it's been a really fascinating journey. So it's funny the parallels, how life takes its twists and turns.
Yeah, this is interesting. Okay. So you were in the US on I guess a personal or leisure trip, right?
A semester, a year abroad. It was part of my degree.
Okay.
And I did, it was slightly different to mine. So I did like this year abroad, studying at Penn State University.
Okay.
And I did this advertising class, and I just was like, oh my God, I don't want to go work in the city in London. I want to go and work in advertising. And so I spent my final year at university applying, and I got my first job as a TV buyer at PhD.
Wow. That's really,
yeah. So from buying TV to programmatic. Big change.
That is so cool. So my journey is literally just marketing. I always knew I wanted to be in marketing. I saw my mom. She was in marketing for the longest time. So I saw her like, getting dressed with her heels and then the big bulky like presentation walking, and I was like, that's really cool. So I was really excited by graphs because back in the days they had to actually do them.
Yeah.
We didn't have presentation like PowerPoint or something else. So she was the biggest inspiration for marketing. And then every time there was a movie about a marketing exec, I was always like, yeah, I'm going to live in a big city and then be that person. And then I ended up in the digital advertising world and programmatic advertising. So nothing exciting about this, just straight up. I always knew I wanted to be in here somewhere. But thank you so much for the intro, because I like to hear somewhat part of everyone's journey, and I think everyone identifies and describes themselves the best in their own words. And so thank you for being transparent. So before we get into today's conversation, though, I usually ask to define, if you had to explain programmatic advertising to a 5-year-old or 8-year-old, we're going to get in the middle here, what would it be? But you are both in very data centric roles. So Kelly, can you give us, if you had to explain your day-to-day or what you do to an 8-year-old, what would you say?
So I have an 8-year-old.
Oh, great.
His argument is always like, why are you not doing what I want you to be doing, Mummy? But when I explain what I do, I say, when you go on the internet and you're playing games or you're on YouTube, my job is to help make sure that the right people know what you're doing and not the wrong people know what you're doing. So that the people who know what you're doing have permission to know what you're doing. And then I do also encourage the children to kind of think about what they're sharing and where they are online. They have quite a lot of freedom, but it's important to kind of help educate them from a young age about what's safe and what's not safe to do and what they need to share.
That is really interesting. And what is his, you say you have a son, okay, so what is his reaction when you say that? Helping people get control of their online experience. What does he say? Does he just be like, okay?
Yeah, no, they kind of, and actually my oldest, he does a slight digression from programmatic, but it fits with privacy and security. So my eldest son is 11. It's the final year at primary school in the UK. So he got a phone. And I was suddenly thinking, oh my gosh, there's a whole world through your phone, right? And he's joined WhatsApp. He's not on social networks, but I can't control what other children are sending him. So I started to have that, like, Isaac, when you're on your phone, you realize like people might send you something you shouldn't see and what you're going to do. And he was like, oh, they already told us this at school, Mummy. Like, you can't send pictures of your private part. This whole discussion, like, it's great because our educators are doing this in tandem with us because it's a whole new world for all of us. Privacy, security, protecting children, which is part of what the regulations are for.
It's really cool because, okay, so when you said you can send your pictures of private part via the internet, it took me back to the early 2000s when we had those, the camera that you just like use one time. I can't remember the name.
Oh, like the Polaroid.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That. And then, I remember taking pictures that were sexy, right? But we were just like, fully clothed.
Yes.
Just doing this. the whole time and then printing it and handing out to a boy or something. But it was a picture of yourself. Basically, it was a picture of yourself. And back in the days, I felt like that was very, well, at least in my circle and
It was very risque.
yeah, it was
Yeah,
really
well,
risque to give your picture to a boy. Oh my gosh, yeah. And actually it was like not even a Polaroid. It was like actually cameras that you will print out somewhere and
oh, right. So you literally printing, yeah.
yeah. Anyway, so that's my little story of the day. One of them. There's probably many. But Maya, okay, so Maya, how would you explain an 8-year-old what you do on a day to day?
Yeah, on a day-to-day. So I would tell them probably that, when you watch an ad on TV,
Yeah.
making sure that it's the right ad that you're watching and it's, of a health food or, a chocolate that you love. There is somebody who's making sure that, they're putting the right ads in front of the right people, right? Which is you. Or if you're being, prompted to watch a cartoon show on Netflix and that's only what you're allowed to watch, right? So again, that's what data does at the background, where it is able to identify, the right things to be watched by the right people. Right? So yeah, I mean, again, I think it brings in that aspect of privacy that Kelly just spoke about,
Yeah.
right? Doing the right things and not being exposed to the wrongs.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask you, does that little kid would ask the following follow-up questions such as like how do they do that? How do they make sure that the ad I'm seeing is the one I want to see?
Yeah, and that's where, kind of what our data does is it
Mhm.
helps to segment people. So we kind of divide people into groups. So there are the parents, there are, the kids at a certain age. There are probably, again, brand marketers.
Yeah.
So how do we really, divide these people into groups
Mhm.
and then show them the, right stuff?
That's really interesting. I think I think that's really interesting. I love to hear the people's definition because we all understand things differently. And I'm still gathering my book of definition because I am convinced that I'm determined. That's a challenge I put on myself to explain this world that we live in to somebody and
Uh,
then to get oh yes, I get it now every time. So I usually get I'm going to say now 1 out of 5 people that I explain programmatic advertising to that don't know anything about the industry. I get the, huh, okay, I think I get it. But like I'm determined to
oh,
not get those anymore. So I'm writing
so
down all of your answers, ladies. Thank
that's
you.
that's such a familiar expression. Uh, when we talk about programmatic and data, and we do this, and this is how we model audiences, and then at the end of it,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah. They're
yeah.
like,
I mean, this
yeah.
seems really cool. It's really interesting, right? We're not sure
Yeah.
whether they really understood it or.
Nodding along.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Oh my gosh. Talking about interesting topics, or rather topics that are maybe confusing to some and shouldn't, we are going to cover DEI, right? So I pulled up a definition on the interweb, and I thought it was really, really a good definition. So diversity, equity, and inclusion, to those that are still confused or don't know, is a term used to describe policies and programs that promote the representation and participation of different group of individuals, okay, including people of different ages, race, ethnicities, abilities, and disabilities, genders, religion, cultures, and sexual orientation. And I thought that was a pretty good definition, and I pulled it from Tech Target. So anybody that want to look it up, just Google it on the Google, and it's the Tech Target definition. But I thought it was really great because it gives us like the full spectrum of the diversity of its own. And so I was excited to talk to you ladies because it's still a big thing in the industry. I mean, the last 2 years, unfortunately, it's became sexier. But I was just reading an article on Digiday actually where it was a creative agency owner here in the US. I think he was based Atlanta. And he was saying how work got picked up, it got so overwhelmed because everybody wanted to work, like here in the US at least, with like a Black owned or female owned or whatever owned. And so things got really, really picked up, but the relationship was not there. And they actually had to like take a break and say, no, we're not going to continue doing this. Like it has to be done for the right reason. And so I'd love to hear about your perspective on DEI. Not so much like not so much to let me rephrase this. I'd love to hear your perspective on DEI and how maybe you are a promoter of DEI. Obviously, you are in the Women in Programmatic network, and so that says a lot about you and about your values. But for those who don't know their values, like why is it so important? How can we encourage people to do it more? You know, I heard. Oh, I was on some network the other day. I think it was LinkedIn, and I saw in a comment people saying like, "Oh well, we've been looking up DEI, not DIY, which is do it yourself, please." But yeah, basically they were DEYing DEI, right? They were trying to do it yourself. And so at some point, when do we stop trying to figure out things, on our own and actually hire somebody to do it? So I always want to hear other people's perspective about what diversity represents for them. So Maya, why don't you lead the way and tell
Sure.
us what does it represent? Mhm.
Yes. So Helen, you had this good definition, right,
Yes, I
of
do.
diversity, and where we talk about different genders, race, ethnicity, social, sexual orientation, and stuff. But really, when we talk about diversity, I think I would really like to focus on the diversity of thought. Okay. Uh,
Okay. Okay.
how diverse thoughts, each individual brings to the table. I think that really contributes to a lot of innovation, right? So each person, so when we say we have a diverse workforce, uh, it not only means in terms of gender, right? Like we have equal representation of men and women. It's not necessarily only that, but also, like you said, different races, different ethnicities, and so. And each of them, I believe, from their life experiences, bring in really diverse thoughts to the table, right? Which really helps the organization. So, how do we promote that, right? Of late, I mean, recently I am hiring for a new role in business development, and I started off writing the JD in a very traditional manner, right? You write, oh, you know what, this many years of experience, and who has done this, who has, agency and relationships and stuff like that, right? Because that's you're thinking purely from, okay, what this role needs to do. But then I realized that, and this was a statistic I read somewhere that women generally, women, when they look at a role, right, if they meet 100% of the check boxes, then they really apply, right? They never want to settle for lesser. Whereas, and this was just a statistic I read.
Oh,
Uh,
really?
yes, that's 100% true. I
Yeah, and men,
honestly, honestly,
and
I
men,
know some women
Opposite.
like that.
I was the opposite. I'm sorry. I used to be like, if there's one thing I know how to do, I'm going to do it. Applying.
but that's
That's
but that's
fantastic.
how it should be.
Oh,
That's what it should be, right?
great.
So you did the right thing, Helen. So, but you know what, men, 60%, if they meet 60% of the requirements, they would immediately apply, right? So then, when I read that, I found it quite interesting, and I was like, okay, you know what? Why go by years of experience and stuff? Okay, so I reworded it as, if you have done project management end to end, ideation to implementation, right? Doesn't matter. You could be somebody who's just done it for 2 years. It could be somebody who's done it for 5 years. Let's talk, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's how you bring in, various aspects to a role into the organization. And I think you need these diverse sets of people to really, achieve a common goal of the organization. So I think diversity in terms of your thinking is something which any organization should stress upon, right? And
Hey, I'm Ellen Parker. What if I tell you for $75 a month, you get to join a community with other fellow programmatic ninjas, successful ones that are looking to grow, ones that are looking to share what they know and learn from others. Would you be interested? And I get to coach you through your transformation, coach you through the skill set that you need to know in order to get what you want to get. Either is that raise, either is that promotion, either is even like a different job, right? So I'm not a recruiter, y'all. I'm not a recruiter. I'm one of you. I've done what you've been doing for at least 10 years, and I'm here to help you. And in the midst of things, some of my friends from the Programmatic Digest podcast, some of those guest hosts get to come. How many times have you listened to any other podcast and say, dang, I wish they could elaborate on this or I could ask this? Well, you get a chance to do that in the community. Just for $75 a month, we meet weekly, we grow weekly, we learn weekly, we share authentically, just being ourselves. You know what I mean? Like, try the first call on me, DM me, send me information, head over to the programmaticmeetup.com. I know you'll be able to find it anyway. So see you next Friday.
literally, I think diversity also forces people to innovate. So
Tell us.
right? You are looking, like you said, equity, right? Being equitable. How do you do that, right? How do you get the right opportunities, rather grab the right opportunities? And yeah, we could have a diverse set of people, but I think those folks who come to the fore, who create visibility for themselves, they are the ones who also kind of succeed. I think uh, my own example. So, in terms of diversity, right? So, in India, so 30 years back is when I studied. Okay, and just at home in India, of course, it's not like that today. But several years before, it was always considered the privilege of the male child, to get education, and the girls to pretty much, yeah, you can study up to a certain time, and then you get married and settle down in life and stuff. So I am the eldest of three daughters, and when I decided to study commerce, I told you I did my cost accountancy, right? And that was not a course at that time that many women actually opted for, many girls opted for. And I told my dad I wanted to, to pursue that. And he said, okay. And you won't believe this, but I was the only girl student in a class of 200. So it was me and 199 boys in the class.
Wow.
For 2 years, that's how I did my graduation in accounts, and then went on to do my cost accountancy. So if you see, the diversity in thought actually, I believe, came from my parents too, right? Where they were willing to explore alternative opportunities for their children.
Oh, wow. That's really dope. I can't imagine if 2 years. How was class? How was class during those 2 years? Because I'm originally from West Africa, Senegal, and although we're kind of considered progressive-ish, not that progressive, okay? Um, it's still really interesting. I am looking to, so I do training and workshops in programmatic advertising, and so I'm looking to offer the training for free over there, my country. Um, but I've had some. So when I talk to some people about this opportunity, they're like, "Yeah, great," and then you'll get 50% of them saying, "Well, yeah, but just make sure you respect cultural
Yeah,
things
different
that we don't talk out loud
The
and
nuances.
yeah, nuances, thank
nuances
you.
that
And
every culture brings
this
in.
is it's more like a man world. And I'm like, no, it's not. Like some of my friends are women, I mean, I have a lot of friends, but the women that I'm following on social media that are in the marketing field there and they're killing the game, um, they're doing really great. So I think it's just like you said, a perspective of how, and unfortunately, it comes down from our parents. It comes down from our. I think the word in English is domestic, like domestication. How we were domesticated to think a certain way, because they didn't know better, maybe, or that was the norm. So I really appreciate the fact that you share that, because like that could have been a fun fact. Because I asked a question at the end, like, "What are your fun facts?" But that could have been your fun fact, maybe, or your power fact. But that's really cool.
Thanks, Helen.
Yeah. So Kelly, tell us about your perspective. Tell us about your value.
So I'll talk about my value in a minute, but I just wanted to build on something that Maya said when she was talking about this statistic about women applying for jobs.
Wow.
And this is just something that I want to share because maybe other women can learn from it. So when we first started talking about the imposter syndrome, I don't know, like 15 years ago, I used to think, I don't understand. I don't feel this. Why don't I feel this? Everyone else feels it. And I thought, oh, maybe I'm just really confident. But now I realize I just never pushed myself out of my comfort zone. So I always applied for jobs that I could do. I always made sure that I could do 100% of whatever I was going to put myself forward for. So I would never feel like an imposter because I was always capable of it. And then in the past few years, I started to feel more like that, to feel the imposter zone, to feel like, oh my God, should I really be doing this? What am I doing? Because I started to put myself forward with things that I don't know if I can do. And I started to say I can do things I'm not sure I can. And I think that we have to stretch ourselves and challenge ourselves to grow. And if we continue to just do things that we know we can do, we don't develop in the same way. So that's just a little learning that I've really seen in myself, you know, which comes with wisdom, which comes with age, which comes with being in your 40s and being able to have the benefit of hindsight to reflect. But I wish I'd realized that in my early 30s because perhaps my career would have developed differently.
Okay, so I don't think they heard you because you said you always applied for jobs that you were comfortable in. And so that's why you thought you could not relate to something that is really common in women and men, of course, but maybe women, imposter syndrome. And I think that is a powerful thing. And I want people to hear and watch us that, like, there is power in recognizing your comfort zone, but growth only happens in uncomfort zone. So like I just wanted to like put that into perspective for the listeners because like you said earlier, Maya, like people are usually, if you check all the boxes, usually women apply. And the reason why I always applied with only one box that I checked is because it was a very unfair thing. Like it was very unfair the way the jobs work, right? You were supposed to have a college degree, a gold medal, have gone to the moon at least twice in your life, have 5 years experience, and get paid entry level. Like, what the heck? So I had to fake it on my resume until I made it. And then I leveraged LinkedIn, and then most of my jobs I found via LinkedIn actually. But yeah, so I think it's really great. But yeah, going back to Kelly. Thank you for sharing.
No, you're an absolute inspiration, Helene. I mean, you know, I've only been listening to you for a short time and it's incredible. So my journey to DEI is I've always felt really strongly about equality. Only recently have I understood what equity is, but I've always felt that we should all have the same rights, we're all the same. And it was something that came to me quite when I was a teenager and I was involved in some committees at university, but not that actively. And it was when I joined Microsoft, I had the real chance to kind of express my desire to help women at work. And I joined the Women at Microsoft Global Board. I set up a London branch of Women at Microsoft. I co-founded a women's network for digital advertising, which was called Dawn in the UK. We ran for 10 years, which is amazing. We were a pandemic casualty. Nice. But also, I really want to help all women work, and I volunteer to help women who are returning to work after maternity leave, because I feel like that's a key time when women struggle. Yeah. And then when I started to think about equity, I started to think, I'm really helping lots of women like me. How can I help women of all backgrounds and all socioeconomic levels? And that's kind of where I'm now going to try to start focus. So thinking about how do I support more women of colour, volunteering with organisations that are volunteering my data protection skills with organisations who are trying to develop and grow and get more women of colour into our industry, and thinking about it from that perspective. I also recently volunteered at work to become the chair of RISE, which is Mrs. D.E.I. initiative, and I hope that will help me learn and grow as well, and learn from others about kind of their perspectives on DEI from not from my perspective, very much from a heterosexual gender, woman's perspective, as opposed to knowing the experience of all different groups that are marginalized.
Yeah, isn't that BS that when I think it's BS when I will see recruiters online or people in hiring position, or the hiring manager, always question when a woman had to take a year off.
Yeah.
And hold it against them. Like, first of all, maybe you don't have a mom. Have you seen how hardworking moms are?
Yeah.
It's the toughest job in the world to take care of another little human that just wants to feed off of you most of the time. And it's okay because they're cute, right? They give kisses and stuff. But like my husband, he quit his job to help support my business. So 2.5 years ago, I went to business and started my consulting firm. I offer media activation and training workshops. And so he started helping me in my business. So most of the day, he helps. He helps with Jade. He takes care of my daughter and me. Like sometimes I like to joke on the podcast. I'm sure the listener is like tired of hearing it, but sometimes like he'll come with a plate of eggs, like an omelet, and he'll just slide it onto my desk because the door is this way, and then he'll close it back. And I'm like, he's just feeding the beast right now. Like, I should come out of the office and he used to give hugs, but he had to travel. He's a real estate investor, so his schedule is more flexible now. Yeah. But gosh, he had to travel for like 3 days in a row. What was it, in January? And I was like, what is this? People do this?
Yeah.
I adore my kid. I want to spend as much time with her. But when she takes naps, I'm like, yo, this is living the life. Naps, when they take naps and you're quiet and you're not chasing them. She's turning 2 next month,
Yeah. And you love them. You love them more, right?
I love them when they're asleep. They're beautiful.
When they sleep. So yeah, true.
And then, Helene, I have a bad news for you. They dropped the nap. It's a really, really terrible day, but one day they dropped the nap, and you're like, oh my God, how many hours until bedtime?
Why? But did they I'm assuming by that time they're out of diapers and they talk clearly, right? Like, no?
Depends. Mine were 2.5. The serious point, your serious point is having children impacts us all differently. It totally depends on our support network, our hormones, the kind of pregnancy we had, the kind of child we gave birth to. And for recruiters and employers, and I'm not, my employer is very, very empathetic and sympathetic, but they need to understand that this is a massive stage in our lives. It's hugely important. And for some people, they will take a career break because that's the right thing for them. And maybe it's not the right thing for the right recruiter, but because you put your family above your career, doesn't make you a bad person. It just means you made a different choice.
Yeah. I had to hire a virtual assistant to help me, with the back end things. And I hired her. When she was 6 months pregnant, and now she's coming to terms really quickly. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not ready to not live with her. Like, what's gonna happen to me? But like, I don't care. She says she wants to take a few times off. I'm like, take as long as you want. Like, whenever you're ready, it's fine. I'll find a way to fill in the blanks, but just take times for yourself. And I love that because she's great. She is skilled. She is keeping me on my, like, I love the fact that she tells me what to do. Like, she's like, listen, no, sis, you got to stay focused. This is what we're going to talk about. The task at hand is this, So she's really good at what she does. And so it always goes back to saying, like, that is crazy. There are so many women out there that have to put themselves, I don't know how to properly say it, so I'm going to say it, okay? So don't get offended, anybody that's listening to this, but they have to put themselves like lower because they know they had to take some time off, extended time off, to take care of a child or to take care of their parents, like older parents, for instance. And I think it's crazy. Like, I feel like you develop such a great skill by taking care of a life. And anyway, it's crazy. It's crazy. And it's really sad.
Yeah, that's true. And this thing which, they face when they want to come back to work, the initial challenge that they face as to, the familiar question, oh, why did you take a break? Oh, okay. So you've had a 2-year break. So it's almost like an expectation that you're going to join, somewhere where you would have been 2 years back and not years ahead, right?
Yeah.
So it also, I think over a period, undermines their confidence. So in India, again, I work with a couple of platforms. They're called, Her Second Innings. There's one called Jobs for Her. So they completely focus on, mentoring such, women who want to come back after a career break, right? How do you really get back into, whether you like it or not, it is a rat race, right? How do you get back into the race? How do you kind of, match up to everyone? Are you upskilling yourself constantly so that you don't get left behind? I think that's something which all of us at some time in life have experienced, right?
Yeah. It's very interesting. It's a very interesting perspective. And I think it's just a good segue into the next topic of discussion about mentoring and the importance of mentoring. And so I want to give a shout out to the Women Programmatic Network that put us together. So I want to hear let's talk about them. Let's talk about your experience so far in the group. What made you join? Why did you join? Why do you think this type of network is so important? Kelly, how about you? You lead the way this time.
So I joined the network because I saw lots of activity online, and I actually initially just volunteered to do their privacy policy for them because, as I said, I'm volunteering my skills to try to, think, how can I actually actively be an ally? Like, how can I ally better? And so I volunteered to do the privacy policy, and then I joined the WhatsApp group, and I love the community. I love the support. I love the fact it's global as well. So, like, I would never normally have met yourself, Helene, or Maya in my day-to-day life, especially since I'm working from home. So unless you're in my house, I'm very unlikely to meet you. But it's so true at the moment. But I've really grown. I don't know about you, Maya, but I've really grown my network in lockdown. I've joined another group called DLL, Digital Leading Ladies, which is a sort of a UK-based, mainly UK-based group. And I suddenly have this incredible network. And that is like something I would say to women who are having a career break: try not to let your networks die, because forget about reading industry press. Everything changes, especially in programmatic. What you read 2 years ago has no relevance to what's happening now. So if there's one thing you can do while you're on parental leave or a career break, try and keep in touch with some people that you liked working with, because if you then want to come back into the industry, you've still got those relationships. You're not trying to build them from scratch. So I think that's a really key thing. I don't know, Maya, how have you found your networks in terms of lockdown and the Women in Programmatic Network?
Yeah. So, I'm part of quite a few networks on LinkedIn, primarily, right, during lockdown. And interestingly, how did I get into Women in Programmatic Network? I think I'm probably the only person in that group from India, okay, from the other side of the world. So Nikki, Nikki Channa, who's one of the founders of the group, I work with her because, IOTA is our data partner. So that's how, we kind of got talking. I came to know that, there is this network called Women in Programmatic. I went ahead and, signed up for it. And like Kelly mentioned, the WhatsApp group is so vibrant. It's vibrant, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, would I have actually met so many diverse people from, different, industries, programmatic per se, but then, some are on the supply side, some on the, demand side, some working in data privacy, and really it broadens your horizons so much. And it's a lot of learning, right? So today, actually, I've been talking to Sophie, and there's a regional head for Australia. They recently opened the Australia chapter, and having some discussions on, should we open an India chapter, right? So that we can, definitely in terms of programmatic, if you see the US, the US, Europe, UK, Australia, they're much more evolved than a lot of the Southeast Asian countries, as well as India, right? So how do my objective or my intent was really, how do I get people in the programmatic space in India and in some parts of Asia? How do I get them more networked? How do I help upskill them, right? So like this week, I think we're having a session on Google Ad Manager, which somebody's volunteering to do, and I was like quite excited to know about it. So I think networking is very important for you, not only to succeed in your career, but also to get a very broad perspective of things, and just to learn more,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And I think also, I think it goes back to mentoring too. Like you get to develop partnerships almost with these women, specifically in the Women in Programmatic Network, like with these women. But for anybody listening, for any men listening, for anyone listening, non-binary folks, I think that what we're saying is that I think it's an underrated thing to network. I see so much value in networking, and most people are just like, oh, pushing it to the side. It's not a priority. But if you're growing in your career and you constantly want, it's like both Maya, I don't know if anybody caught, that was another stop the drop moment that I should have stopped drop moment. But both Maya and Kelly said, I'm always learning. And the best way to learn is by experiencing it hands on with somebody else, learning from their mistakes and not re implementing it. And yes, sometimes it's just that. It's just finding a few people that maybe that inspires you, or you want to be like them. I don't know, whatever you want to do, right? But like really study their success and their opportunities and challenges in their career. I mean, that's the biggest thing. Even like in financial, I mean, there's an accounting here, she can tell us, but even in financial management education, like we study like models of things that are working and not working. Even in stock trading in the US, that is, they're talking about companies, what is working and not working. So we're learning this experience from people. So why are we not doing it from a human base, right? Why are we not learning from somebody on LinkedIn? And we have so much networks that are free that we can leverage. I've mentioned LinkedIn, the Women Programmatic Network. And if you're a man, you're like, yo, this is cool. There's way to help support the Women in Programmatic Network. So don't be afraid of just being that person to stand up and say, help me pull them up with me or help me open more doors for them. So I think it's like no other best way to end the conversation, because like you guys have dropped so much bomb, like so much gems on the podcast, and I think it's great. And I appreciate you guys for sharing that. But I do want to say, what are your top three advice when it comes to networking, finding a mentor, or mentoring? Because again, if you want to learn something, you got to teach it. So, what are your top three things that you would want somebody to remember at the end of the podcast? If they have to stop right now, what are those three things you want to tell them?
Yeah. So I would say, what, the top most thing is networking is important. It creates visibility for yourself, and it also helps you to create visibility for other women that you want to scale up
Yeah.
along with you. Okay, so that's, I think, key. Second, constantly upskill yourself. So, if
Exactly.
the world is ever changing, and what technology, and with technology, right, what is
Yeah.
relevant today may not really be relevant tomorrow. So unless you are constantly upskilling yourself and staying ahead of the game, it's, obviously a tough race for survival, right?
Yeah.
And third, I think, you know, be grounded, be down to earth.
Know
I
your
mean, you
story.
have achieved a lot in life. You could have, you have a fancy designation, you may be doing a lot, but then how do you constantly stay grounded and tell yourself that there are many more leaders that you want to build like yourselves.
Be the change the world you want to see in the world.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, how about you, Kelly?
That was so powerful, Maya. So if I'm going to convince someone why they need their network, my top 3 things would be, I found some brilliant, almost like one-off mentors through my network. So I have a challenge, I see someone every day battling the same challenge or has overcome it, and I'll just say to them, could I have half an hour with you because you seem to be really good at this? So
let me buy you coffee. Let me just
can I buy your coffee? Can I do a one-to-one? I'm really struggling with juggling, and you seem to have it nailed. Can I just catch up with you? I've found that my networks for the past 2 years have been amazing at helping lift me up when I'm feeling down. So, like, reaching out and saying I'm having a bad day, or does anyone struggle with this issue? And then kind of really being there. I mean, fun and friendship and sharing, but I was having a really bad week, and I sort of end up blurting it out in the Women in Programmatic Network WhatsApp group. Don't really know these women that well, and immediately people had like podcasts I should listen to or words of wisdom, and it really, really helped me. And then finally, if someone still doesn't read me, in fact, since the last 18 years, all the jobs I've got are because the initial introduction was through someone I knew, through my networks.
Yeah.
And at the moment, we're in this incredible buoyant job economy, but we won't be in it forever. And that is, I think, why networks are really important.
That is super powerful. Yeah, most of my business have been referrals from the network that I've built over the years and or the podcast. So be a content creator, start that blog. Who cares? Start that blog. It doesn't have to be perfect. Start a vlog, which is a blog, or a podcast. Podcast is super easy. You just record your voice and then put it on the internet. If somebody refers, listens to you.
I love how easy you make it.
Let's throw it out there. But everything, like I always say that you're here for a bigger purpose, and that our jobs is actually not part of our identity, even though it influences it so much in that moment. And so you want to be able to give back. You want to be able to give back to your network, and your network is going to pour into you. So it's not only about tick, 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 but you have to give back. And so thank you, ladies, for dropping by. I think this was such a great experience. We won't have time for the closing talks, but I do want to ask this last question. So if you had to give yourself an advice, or your freshman self or your younger self starting in the industry, an advice of something you learned or some wisdom, what would it be? So like, what would you want her to know that you probably did not know when you started, but you know now? Whoever wants to start.
I can go straight away. One of the things I said earlier about push yourself out your comfort zone. Tell everyone what you do.
Mm-hmm.
It's something I've got good at, but self-promotion is really important, because if you don't know what you're good at and you aren't prepared to tell anyone what you're good at, then why would anyone else be able to do that? I don't mean completely blowing your own trumpet, but when your boss stops by your desk and says, "How are you?" They kind of want to know how you are, but they also want to know, like, is there something that you've been doing that's really helpful for me to know? So that would be what I tell myself.
That's good. How about you, Maya?
Yeah, I think to my younger self, I would probably say, maybe if I had had more of professional networking, if I had done more of professional networking earlier, I don't know if I've really lost out so much on it, but probably your learnings also would be, faster. When we are younger in our career, we are so focused on the job at hand that we spend kind of 90% of our time, I would say, on that, right? And you hardly think, what should I do in terms of interacting with the world outside? It's only as you scale up in your career that you start, becoming part of these networks, or, trying to find more, diverse people in the professional space. And of course, also with the advent of LinkedIn, right? When I was much younger, we didn't have LinkedIn. So So I think that is something which I would, leave back as advice for my younger version, or anyone who's in that stage of their
Starting
career.
level starting.
You know,
Those are
yeah,
great advice. And I do
I've
want
got
to. Oh, go
I was
ahead.
going to say, I just got one more, which would have
Yeah.
worked for myself and my professional selves. Buy Google, buy Amazon, buy Facebook. Buy those stocks the minute they're
exactly.
inside.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
what I wish. Put £10,000 into each of them, you won't have to worry about your career.
That is so funny.
I mean, it's not a useful piece of advice for anyone else because they can't take that and use it. But that's what I wish someone had said to me.
I think the wisdom is because we know that our day-to-day job are going to consume us so much that it's okay to set ourselves up in our future for success by investing in passive income. So
Yes.
I think that's super important, and that you can start at any level, any education level in your life by looking at passive income, and buying stocks is a good option. And there's so much YouTube videos on YouTube University that you could probably find some great information to start on. Of course, I'm not an
advisor. You're not a financial advisor.
Yeah, financial advisor. However, it works for me. Works for me. And to go back to networking, I was referred by financial advisors that pour so much content that I learned through them as well. So tap into your network. And Maya said that we spend so much time at work, but I pulled the stats for a presentation. I was doing a workshop for in January, and I pulled this presentation and it said 1/3. I mean, Americans spends 1/3 of their time at work. 33% of your whole life is spent at work. A whole 33%. That is crazy. When I read that, I was like, only? And then I started making the math like, oh, well, you're sleeping at least 6 hours a day, and then that's that. That was like a whole day almost, if you think about it. So yeah. So take the advice of these amazing ladies. Invest in yourself. Invest also in passive income. Make sure you're tapping into your network. Make sure you pour as much as you give as much as you're taking, and consider joining a network. The Women Programmatic Network is a good start, or any networks. I mean, LinkedIn does it really, really easy for us, right? So, okay. So if anybody have more questions and want to reach out to you individually, how can they do so? So Kelly, how can they reach out to you?
They can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I am the only Kelly Jacobson Collins. I also have a website, kellyjacobsoncollins.com, if you want to reach out to me that way. So yeah, that would be the best way to get in touch.
Okay. What about you, Maya?
Yeah, they can reach out to me on LinkedIn, Maya Venkatesh. I think I'm again the only Maya Venkatesh there. Or they could, that's the best way, I guess, to connect with me and kind of get the conversations going.
That is awesome. Well, both of your information will be in the show notes and the description of the podcast here and on YouTube and all our social media. So you guys can definitely go. And if you don't want to connect with them right away, you can follow and still be able to tap into their content and to their network. But eventually it will be nice to say hi and say, hey, I heard you on the podcast. Really like this. Can we connect? But thank you so much for dropping by. This was great.
Thank you
Thanks
so much,
Kelly.
Such a pleasure.
Yeah, it was a nice experience to be on this podcast, and it was so lovely chatting up with Kelly and Helen, both of you. And I look forward to catching up with you guys again. Thanks so much, Helen, for doing this podcast with us.
Thank you.